Every once in a while, I build something that sounds pretty mundane on paper. But those are the projects with the most room for creativity. Like this simple entryway picture shelf, for example. When expectations are low, that's where the fun really starts. So let's quit overthinking it and get cracking. This project actually started about 2 years ago when my wife brought home a couple of shelves from IKEA to hold picture frames. I'll be honest, I immediately regretted that purchase, but at the time didn't have the bandwidth to build a proper solution. Unfortunately, those shelves went straight in our entryway, which meant every single day I had to walk past them, and I was reminded of that regret, over and over again. So fast forward 2 years and I'm finally ready to deal with it head on. With this design, I want to make something that's truly unique. It'll still function as a picture shelf at its core, but the execution is where things will get interesting. Dynamic shapes, a little bit of magic, and a detail or two that isn't immediately obvious. So the first step in this project, like most, is to mill down my material. And the material I'm using for this piece is hard maple. I like the light look of hard maple, but working with it has its challenges. One of them is that it's very hard, which is tough on tools, and another is that it tends to burn. So I'll have to keep my eye on that throughout the project to ensure I don't overlook any toasted sections. This stock is just shy of 2 inches thick, which is a lot of material for a blade to chew through. So it's important to make sure your saw is actually capable of handling the kind of work you're going to ask of it. Thankfully, this beast has 5 horsepower, so it'll rip through just about anything I throw at it. Once I've got my blade height set, the fence dialed in, and the featherboard locked down, I can fire up the saw and make my cuts. At this stage, all my pieces are left slightly oversized by about a 32nd of an inch. And that's intentional, because I plan to hand plane everything back to its final dimension at the bench. This gives me a little wiggle room to work out any bows or warps, and as a bonus, it lets me clean up any burn marks left behind from the saw. So back at the bench, I'm going to grab my number 7 smoother and hit all the edges with 2 or 3 passes. From there, I'm going to call it a day and let these boards relax for about 24 hours. They've been through a lot. If after that I notice any new bows or twists, I can deal with those minor imperfections and straighten everything back out. That's the benefit of leaving myself a little wiggle room. Wood moves, and I'd rather find out now than after it's glued together and judging me on the wall. With my boards flat, I can go ahead and start marking out the locations for my grooves as well as my decorative wedges. The plan is to build the main structure first and then add the accoutrements afterward. So once everything's laid out, I'll head back over to the table saw to set up my blade for some bevel cuts. Now these bevel cuts are going to run the length of my board, so I'm going to have to push the fence pretty close to the blade to make them. And all that really means is that I'm going to need to remove the blade guard, but I'll replace that with the riving knife. From there I can tilt the blade to 45 degrees and lock it in place. To center my board on the table saw, I could probably use a couple of different measurements, but I much prefer just using an eyeball test. It gets me about 99.9% of the way there, if not 180% of the time. Which doesn't completely math, but trust me, it works. So with my featherboards in place to hold my workpiece against the fence and down to the tabletop, I can go ahead and make the cuts. Two big things to note here. First, this is a messy process. It kicks a lot of debris into the air, but that's just the cost of doing business. Second, once I make this initial pass, I need to keep track of my offcut. I'm going to reattach it to the workpiece so the board stays square for the second pass. To do that, I'm just going to use a few well-placed strips of blue tape. And just as a side note, blue tape is probably my most used consumable in the shop just because it serves so many different purposes. So I always have a few rolls on hand. With my offcut securely in place, I can rotate my workpiece and make the second pass. Now, to cut in my grooves, I'm going to swap out my all-purpose blade for a 1/2-inch dado stack. Anytime you're using a dado stack, it's important to check the blade height against your workpiece before making any cuts. That's how you ensure everything fits nice and snug. Because as most woodworkers know, not all half-inch material is actually a half an inch. Thankfully, the swap itself is pretty straightforward. I just pop out the all-purpose blade, remove the riving knife, swap out the brake, then slide on the dado stack. From there I can pop on my sacrificial fence with a few hold downs, and we're ready to go. With the bottom groove in place, I'll nudge my fence over, remove the sacrificial fence, and make my second cut. Back over at the bench, I'll clean up my grooves with a medium shoulder plane and a router plane. Once I was happy with the overall flatness of the grooves, I went ahead and assembled the shelf. For the ends, I want to assemble the shelf, then cut them down as one single piece. That way there's no variation and both ends line up perfectly. Since this is a pretty awkwardly shaped workpiece, I'm just going to use the chop saw to cut through all the boards at once. From there, it's on to cleaning up my wedge material. So I'll just use my random orbit sander and give it a few passes. And to knock down those hard edges, I just use a sanding block. We don't need anybody getting sliced like against it. All I have to do now is slap in my crosscut blade and clean up one end of each of my workpieces. With my ends squared up, I can head back over to the bench and mark out the height of my decorative strips directly from the face of the shelf. Doing it this way ensures the fit is about as close to perfect as it can get. I'll align that notch with a mark I place on top of the saw bed, then use a magnetic stop to set the cut length. From there I'll cut each of the wedges using the miter gauge to keep everything square and tight. It's important throughout this process that I make good contact with the stop. If I come up short, the pieces won't be long enough, and if I'm too forceful, I can knock the stop out of place and suddenly everything's too long. So it's a delicate balance of being consistent without getting aggressive, kind of like parenting. With my wedges cut to length, it was time to attach them to the front face of the shelf. I kicked around a few different ways of doing this, but ultimately landed on pinning the wedges in place from the back side of the board. I'm using my bench top as reference since it's about as flat a surface I have in the shop short of the table saw. Once I have the first wedge aligned with the edge of the previously attached piece, I just work my way down the line, gluing and pinning each one in place with a few 23 gauge pins. Once all the wedges were glued and pinned, I could flip the assembly angle side down and apply a few clamps to make sure everything dries nice and flat. From there, it was on to building my drawer box. So I'll just use my calipers to take a few measurements so that I can get the outside dimensions for my box. I want this box to be inset and read as a true end cap when everything's finished. To make that work, I'm going to use a push-to-open mechanism similar to what you see inside cabinets, so the drawer can sit perfectly flush with the edge of the shelf. Now, I'm not hiding any large bananas in here. but it's more than enough space for a couple of keys or the candy I pocket from my son's stash. So once I have my end caps trimmed to their final length and width, I'll take them over to the workbench and clean them up using some hand planes. It's important for me to work back to my final dimension here, because if I go for the final dimension right off the saw, odds are I'm going to end up being too narrow once it comes time to clean them up. So instead, I'll cut everything oversized and then work back to that final dimension by hand, ensuring a nice snug fit. Yep, those will work perfectly. With the end caps cut to size, the final big push on this project is cutting out the drawer parts. Since I already know my final dimensions, it's really just a matter of working within that space to build the drawer box. I'm not doing anything fancy here, just a simple box with rabbited edges. The main thing I'm paying attention to is fit. I don't want the drawer so tight that it can't slide in and out of the shelf smoothly. With all my drawer parts cut out, it's back over to the bench to clean them all up with my number 4 smoother. And from there, it's on to the glue up. Again here, I'll use that tried and true blue tape to hold all my work pieces in place while the glue dries. Just for a bit of added reassurance, I'm going to throw on a couple clamps, though I don't think they're 100% necessary. And after roughly an hour in clamps, I could finally test out the fit. Yep, it doesn't get much better than that. So the final step before the final glue up was to go ahead and install my cabinet push. So here I'm just centering it on the bottom shelf and then popping a couple screws in to hold it in place. Thankfully, this piece allows me to thread it in and out so I can fine tune the end capped inset. Before gluing everything together, I added a little bit of paste wax to the interior surface where the drawer would slide. This just helps things move a bit smoother. With that slick surface in place, I could move on to the final glue up. The assembly itself is pretty straightforward, just aligning the ends and popping the horizontal boards into their grooves. Still, it never gets old when everything fits together like a glove. I know I've said final step already a few times, but this one's actually it, the finish. For the finish on this piece, I'm going to be using Rubio Monocoat. It's a finish I've used a lot on my furniture, and it's hard to beat how easy it is to apply and repair. Once the two parts are mixed, I apply it with a Scotch-Brite pad, then wipe off the excess with a shop towel. And with that, all that's left is to toss out those old IKEA shelves and get this thing mounted on the wall where it belongs. And that's going to wrap it up for this one. What started as a couple of regrettable IKEA shelves turned into a custom piece with dynamic shapes, hidden storage, and details that actually reward taking the long way around. From wrestling thick maple at the table saw, dialing those bevels and wedges, to sneaking in the push-to-open drawer and the finish. This is one of those projects that proves the most mundane problems are worth solving the right way. So I hope you enjoyed this adventure and learned a tip or two along the way. Thanks for hanging out with me in the shop, and as always, I knew this would work, and I'll see you next time.